we start, could I kindly ask everybody to try as hard as they can to speak up. Speak up, number one. Two, speak into the mic, because it seems the recorders have a problem with people speaking too softly. And that includes me. They told me that I'm the biggest culprit. So I think my colleague here has done a good job throughout playing, you know, the choir master role. She will probably continue to remind us to speak up. But kindly, when you take the stand or when you speak, try to speak up and think about the recording. Thank you.
Please state your full names for the purpose of the record.
Cyril Simpiwe Mlojwa.
Will you take oath of affirmation?
Yes, I'll take it off.
Do you swear that the evidence that you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, raise your right hand and say so help you God.
I swear that the evidence I shall give in this proceedings shall be the truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Again, before we start, let's find a comfortable position for you for the mic. So whether it's, so that you don't have to pick up it now.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Good morning. Employed as a Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions in the Pietermaritzburg, KwaZulu-Natal area.
Undoubtedly.
You have a B. Juris degree obtained in 1995 at the University of Zululand, completed at the end of 1997, correct?
Correct.
You then worked as a court interpreter at the Magistrates Court, and you studied part-time for your LLB, which you completed in 1999.
That is correct.
You became a district court prosecutor at the Verulam Magistrates Court in 1998.
That is the position.
Right. You then went to a prosecutor's course and you became a regional prosecutor in 2000-2001 at Stanger Magistrates Court.
That is the position.
And you were appointed as a state advocate in July 2001 at the DPP's office in Pietermaritzburg.
Absolutely.
You became a senior state advocate in 2003,
Yes.
and you then enrolled for your master's, correct?
That is correct.
Which you completed in 2004.
Yes.
You also got a Human Resources Management Program course, which you completed in 2005.
Absolutely.
And you were appointed as a Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions in 2008.
Indeed, correct.
Right. You were then recommended by the Minister of Justice to be the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions. Remind me, when was that? From the period 17th May 2010 until 9 July 2012.
That is correct.
You've got the BA Honours in Philosophy, which you got in 2015 and you graduated in 2016.
That is correct.
Commenced pupillage at the Pietermaritzburg Bar. Went through that with flying colours, and you currently work as an advocate, as a member of the Pietermaritzburg Constituent Bar, correct?
That is indeed correct.
And I suppose most impressive on your curriculum vitae is that you have completed 9 Comrades marathons and busy training for the 10th.
That is correct, evidently.
Please don't have on your running shoes running away from me today.
I will try not to outrun everybody in these proceedings.
Briefly gone through that, can you tell us what the circumstances and the arrangements were when you were appointed as the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions in 2010? As I understand it, it followed on Advocate Batoy being employed to The Hague, correct?
That is correct. And historicity will reveal that in the year, I think that will be towards the end of the year 2009, if not at the end of 2009, when the colleague Advocate Shamila Batoy left the division so as to join the ICC at The Hague. At the time of her departure, she had left behind a recommendation in terms of which, in the light of the fact that she was going to be away at ICC at The Hague for 12 months, that in terms of that recommendation, that 12 months would be compartmentalized into two, 6 months being allocated to another colleague, Advocate Shamila Sheriza Ramotar, the Senior Deputy in Durban office. And then in terms of that recommendation, the other 6 months was going to be for the other senior deputy who's now late, Senior Counsel Advocate Gert Engelbrecht. So in view of the fact that my former colleague, may so rest in peace, Advocate Gert Engelbrecht, at the time when he was supposed to be taking over, it then transpired that he was quadriplegic. He was a bit sickly. And then he made a recommendation to the then National Director of High Prosecutions, Advocate Menzi Simelane, that his view at the time was that it will be more fair and reasonable if among the other deputies that were in the division of KwaZulu-Natal, that the then National Director Advocate Simelane makes a recommendation to the then Minister of Justice, Mr. Jeff Hadebe, that I be the one who takes over from Sheriza Ramotar. It is briefly against that background that I moved into the seat when, after the acting period of 6 months, there was objective evidence that I excelled, or there was objective evidence that the performance of the province got enhanced, it improved, on the basis of which another recommendation was made, because after my 6 months of acting, there was also a notion that indicated that possibility of Advocate Shamila Batoy staying with The Hague was going to be lengthened. So another recommendation was made that I act for another 12 months, which is for another 6 months. So when I finished acting after 6 months, Advocate Shamila Batoy was not back, and at that time I was keen to understand that South Africa as a republic was trying to have some certain issues sorted out with The Hague for a permanent absorption of Advocate Shamila Batoy. On that basis, I was appointed to act until that issue of Advocate Shamila Batoy was resolved. If I'm not mistaken, an email from the office of the then CEO, Advocate Karen van Rensburg, was circulated through South Africa informing NPA officials that I was going to hold the TF until further notice. So that will be in 2012, I think on the 9th of July 2012, I was then called to the headquarters, NPA headquarters, VGM, by the then acting National Director of Prosecutions, my colleague, Advocate Jiba. Upon arrival at the head office, I indeed found her there with another colleague of mine. They're still my colleague, once a prosecutor, always a prosecutor. Sis Togo Machuweni, Advocate Togo Machuweni. And then indeed, the lady who was going to take over from me was also present. And then it was a mini meeting, very short meeting. At that meeting, my former colleague, Advocate Chiba, indicated that a decision had been taken that I step down and hand over to the lady who's currently, the colleague who's currently the Director of Prosecutions, KwaZulu-Natal. Then she thanked me for the excellent job that I had done in the NPA. I also thanked the colleague for the opportunity I had been given to test my ideas in the NPA, and I also undertook to prepare a handover report to my successor, which I think I did within 24 hours. Then I stepped down as the acting director of prosecutions, going back to my original position of that of a deputy. And then I was in the office, and then end of 2015, I came in, I resigned, then I joined the Pietermaritzburg Bar for privilege, as we have already stated in your introductory remarks. I think that is it. Apologies for not being short to answer.
We're going to make an effort to do that. Did you have any sign that this was coming?
I will say an answer will be resounding yes. Resounding yes, because it was public knowledge. Public knowledge in the sense that I used to receive SMSs, I used to receive emails. I have some of them here, some people giving me support, in the sense that running through like a golden thread in all those messages and emails were saying, be strong, we can see what is happening to you. Stick to the principle.
Maybe, I think you misunderstand my question. Prior to the 9th of July, did you have any reason to query whether you were going to be removed from the position or not?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all, in the sense that some people in the legal fraternity were of the view that I had a very good case of a legitimate expectation, in the sense that the expectation of being appointed permanently as the DBP was not self-induced, but was induced by both the institution as well as the ministry's office that I was serving at the time.
Was there any indication in any form that Advocate Nuka was going to be appointed as the acting DBP?
Who, Advocate?
Nuka. She's the person who replaced you as the acting Director of Public Prosecutions. Is that correct?
Yes. Though these things happened 6 years ago, but upon activation of my brain scanner from my long-term memory, I can remember that flying fast and thick in the corridors, there was a suggestion that my days were numbered and she was going to take over. On the basis and strength of those rumors, I decided to transmit an email to the then acting CEO, Karen van Rensburg. I'm an open book, I don't hide things. I put it to her in the email, look, flying fast and thick is this rumor. I thought at some point the rumor will, if ever, send, but it would appear that the rumor is getting stronger and stronger as the time goes on. Karen van Rensburg responded, I think in a line or two, saying no official position has been taken in this regard. Consider yourself as the DPP KZN. Well, I accepted her word in that regard. I think in a week or two, then the decision was made that I stepped down, a decision that I indeed accepted, and then I moved on with my life.
Now, if I go back to your affidavit.
Guys, please can you kindly try to correct that, because it's not only is it disturbing to the proceedings, it also distorts the recording.
The sound guys are just behind you.
Where the technicians kindly assist us?
Yes, but you know, when it's for your qualities, we continue to
Please indicate if we could proceed.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
You then allude in the second paragraph of your affidavit. Mr. Molocha, before we go there, maybe you should tell the inquiry what are those little black books you've got there.
So, which means from the day of my appointment as the acting DVP, I bought myself these black books from day one until the last day of my acting in the position. Whatever that was happening, whatever meeting, whoever coming to my office, docket, no docket, I will record in these 3 black books. To cut the long story short, the main objective to bring them here is that I had to refresh my memory. I'm quite a busy advocate at the Pietermaritzburg Bar, and some of the things would have happened some years ago, and I'm no longer in the system, NPA.
Now, if we go to the next part of your affidavit, you say that...
Before we do that, you say you brought those books here to refresh your memory. But why did you find it necessary to make those recordings in those books then? Was it also a memory thing?
Chairperson, I'm a fervent believer that spoken words are parasitic on written words, with the view that written words are permanent, you can't scratch them away. So I knew that at some point, if I had a certain responsibility, when called upon to account, obviously with my busy schedule, for instance in KZN, I think my span of control was plus or minus 726 prosecutors. So, and then again, I think at the time I was relatively, I think it was 36 or 38. So I had to make sure that I keep the records of everything.
I'm going to come back to the issue of your span of control. I want to take you to your second part of your affidavit, your second paragraph in the second sentence, where you say between January 2012 and March 2012, while driving to Sport Shepston, you received a call from Advocate Chiba, who was acting as the NDPP at the time. Can you elaborate on that?
Possibly, before I elaborate on that, I will have to give you this to avoid decontextualizing the contents of this affidavit. Firstly, I was approached by the guy who commissioned the affidavit, that would be General. I've been trying to get help to be able to pronounce his
Tau.
Tau, yes. When he first approached me, he said, look, I'm from the Hawks, I'm the General, I want a statement from you. That was in 2015. When he said that to me, I indicated to him that I was not prepared to cooperate. He wanted to know why. I said to him, it was already in the media, the number of the withdrawals that were taking place, and some of the people were already making it a joke that the acronym NPA, National Prosecuting Authority, is now no longer National Prosecuting Authority, but Non-Prosecuting Authority. So I was not prepared to file an affidavit for something that is not going to even see the light of the day. Thereafter, I think few weeks or months, he came back with Advocate Ferreira with a similar request. Then I wanted to know from them, what is it that they wanted? I gave them a similar explanation that, look, there is now this perception of non-prosecuting authority. Are you going to prosecute if you want statement from me? Then they assured me that everything was above board. So at that time, I did not have anything to rely on. So I just dictated to my secretary, from my recollection, that it would have been between January and March of 2012 when I received a call on the way to Potchefstroom. But after making this affidavit, I had to gravitate to these black books with a view to establish the actual date. When I went through these black books, I was able to establish that the trips I made to Potchefstroom are two. One on the 9th of January, 2012, to meet the prosecutors at Potchefstroom as well as the police, the detectives at Margate, and the second trip was on the 1st of March, 2012. So to cut the long story short, it is my firm view that the day of the receipt of that call from my colleague will either be on the 9th of January or on the 1st of March 2010. But what I can stick my neck out for it to be chopped out, for which I'm sure of, it was a trip to Potchefstroom when the call was received.
And you were driving at the time you received the call?
I was driving.
And can you recall what the conversation was?
So as I was driving shortly after Marion Hill Toll Plaza, I took a turn off in the vicinity of the area called Queensberry. I think it was between 7 and 8 o'clock. My phone rang. As it rang, my colleague on the other side greeted me, that is Advocate Chiba. I also greeted her back. After the exchange of greetings, she said to me, "Where are you?" I said, "Look, I'm on the way to Potchefstroom." She said, "Pull over, there's a matter I want to discuss with you." I said, "Okay, no, that's fine." After that pulling over, she said to me, "Hey, Simpiwe, look, there is a matter here that we need to enroll as we have got pressure." My immediate response to her was, "Look, I will have to first read the record, satisfy myself first if there is evidence that warrants the enrollment of the matter in court." And then she replied, insisting that, "Look, with this one is different in the sense that we have got pressure." To which suggestion I responded that, "Look, if that is the position, I don't think that I've got prosecutors who can do that matter or enroll that matter on agency basis." And then her response again was, "Look, I'm checking in, I'm at the airport, let me call you later." And then I did not receive a call afterward about that matter.
Was the nature of the pressure identified to you at the time?
No.
Was the matter identified to you at the time?
No,
Was any dockets identified to you at the time?
no, I did not know the docket.
So you didn't know whether it was a docket in your office or a docket that was not in your office?
Not at all.
Was any other specifics discussed with you at the time?
No.
Can you then tell me what transpired after that? If we go to your next paragraph, you detail you received the call from Advocate Chowki. So, sorry, one more question. This conversation with Advocate Jiba, did you record it in your black books?
Unfortunately, that when I was driving, I did not record it. I did not record it. And unfortunately, the phone on which I received that one, because I had to keep it at home, it got lost a few years ago, my beautiful red Nokia cell phone. I think I say there, she did not call me later. Few days later, I received a call. I think, as I say, I dictated the affidavit to the PA. Days ought to read months. Because, reason why I'm saying that is because if I go through these black books, there are several meetings I attended at head office, and the issue of this case again was never raised by my colleague. I think after that, that will be 24, 25 January as at VGM, 19, and then 16 January, 1 April, 19, 23, 28, 29, and 30.
Sorry, could,
But can you start, are you saying at paragraph 3, it ought to read a few months later, not a
Or
few
to
days
read
later?
few months later. The basis upon which I'm saying that is because if I look at, if I go through these black books, I'm able to discover that on the 24th and the 25th of January 2012, I attended a meeting at VGM that was chaired by my colleague, Advocate Jiba. 19 January 2012, I attended I think it's a hate crime workshop for deputies that was addressed by one professor from UNISA. And then on the 16th of February of the same year, I attended the DPP's media training. 1 April, I attended, I'm not sure whether I should call it a workshop, but it was addressed by the current Chief Justice Mokgoro. And then 19 April, I attended a performance assessment meeting. And then 23 May, I attended the Amigos case meeting with my team from KwaZulu-Natal. And then on the 28th of May, it was an ESCOM meeting that was chaired by my colleague, Advocate Jiba. The following day, the 29th of May, it was the DPP's meeting discussing the moderation of the performance assessment. And then 30 May, the presentation of the stats by another former colleague, official Marilise from head office.
and essentially those are the dates which your records show you were at the NPA head office, which is known as the VGM building.
That is the position.
Right. Now, you then indicated you corrected it and you said a few months later you received a call from Advocate Chowki. Can you recall more or less when you received that call?
Again, in respect of the call, in the same paragraph and the subsequent paragraph, the date of the call I received from Chauge is not reflected here, but the date will be in May, few days before that, few days before the 29th of May 2012. How I know the date is because I was chairing a meeting of the deputies and the chief prosecutors in KwaZulu-Natal. When I received a call, I had to leave the meeting and attend to it.
Okay. And can you recall what was the substance of the call?
When my colleague Advocate Chauge called me, he greeted me. I greeted him, "Chief, how are you?" And then he responded, and then he told me that he had been instructed by my colleague Advocate Jiba to send a team of prosecutors to prosecute the accused in the Kato manner. So that is the first time I'm beginning to get just a faint idea what the case is possibly about. And then he further stated that there were sensitive security issues that were surrounding the matter. And then, as he stated that, I responded to him that in recognition of the fact that at any rate I was going to attend a meeting at VGM, let's discuss the matter further when the two of us attend that meeting. Then the call was terminated, and then I returned to the meeting. Then the meeting proceeded with the prosecutors and the deputies in KZN.
So you then come to the meeting at the VGM on the 29th of May, and as you indicated to us, you were actually at the VGM building for a few days.
Let me put it this way. I was at VGM on the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th of May 2012. However, on the what distinguishes the 28th from the other days is the fact that the meeting of the 28th was branded as the ESCOM meeting, which was being chaired by my colleague, Advocate Jiba. But the meeting of the following day, the 29th, it was a moderating committee meeting constituted by the DPPs from different jurisdictions in the country, to the exclusion of my colleague, Advocate Jiba. And I see the meeting of the 30th was a meeting of the presentation of the stats by Marilise, in terms of which as DPPs, we had to make a call in terms of making an assessment whether we are still on the right track in terms of the NPA measurable objectives, conviction rate, withdrawal rate, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so what transpires? You and Advocate Chowki agreed you would discuss this matter at your meeting at the VGM building, and what then occurs between you and Advocate Chowki there? Take us through that.
So, indeed, on the 29th of May 2012, while the meeting was in progress, the DPP's meeting, my colleague, Advocate Chauga, stepped out for a few minutes. He returned to rejoin the meeting and then touched me on my shoulder. And then he said, acting NDPP, want to see us in her office. As a very docile official in the organization then, I followed him. We went to my colleague's office. We found my colleague in her office, sitting at her desk. She greeted the two of us. We greeted her back. And then Advocate Chauke indicated again that, look, I'm not at liberty to discuss everything surrounding the case in the light of the fact that, one, there are security issues surrounding the Cattle Manor case, and then two, at the moment, I've got a very strong sense that my investigation with my team of prosecutors will lead to the arrest even of the advocates in the office of Mr. Mlodjo. And then the response from my colleague, Advocate Jiba, did not say anything to that statement. And then Advocate Jiba stated that, look, Simpiwe, I've got an opinion from Gerald Nell to the effect that, in the light of the fact that you are the DPP KZN, and prosecutors from outside will be prosecuting in your division, in terms of Gerald Nell's legal opinion, you'll have to sign the delegation for those prosecutors, and then to sign the indictment that will be arraigning the Cattle Manor accused in your division. Then I agreed. I think when I was agreeing, I responded by stating that, look, with the issue of the delegation, I will at some point satisfy myself if constitutionally and legally it's legit to sign the delegation. I will sign the provisional delegation. Unfortunately, I couldn't contact those prosecutors that I gave the delegation so as to refresh my memory in terms of the date. But as far as I remember, those delegations were endorsed provisionally because of that. And then secondly, with regard to the indictment, I indicated that I did not have a problem at all in signing the indictment, provided it met one requirement. Requirement I stated in no uncertain term was the requirement that the indictment must be accompanied by the memo and the report that will be detailing the evidence that implicates each accused in the case, and then implicate the accused as a collective, so that with certitude I can be able to sign the indictment. So that ended our discussion. I left the office, I rejoined the DPP's moderating committee meeting. If I'm not mistaken, Advocate Chauge was a few minutes behind me. Later on, he also rejoined the DPP meeting.
Can I stop you there? How much contact up to that point have you had with Advocate Jiba?
In relation to,
Generally, you're the DPP, she's the NDPP. What's the nature of the relationship like? Was there any bad vibes? I don't want to lead you. I'm just
No.
trying to find out what was the nature of your relationship.
our relationship has always been as smooth as the sail. I take her as my big sister. I joke with her, I make her laugh. We will talk about my running. She will tell me about the running of her husband as well. Our relationship has always been above board. We have never encountered a problem. Even at the time when she instructed me to hand over to the lady, I never held any grudge against her. I never held any axe to grind with her. Even today, I'm fine with her. Life moves on.
And your life has moved on.
Indeed, yes.
Did you ever see this opinion that was represented to you as having been provided by Gerard Nel?
As I indicated, a meeting was a mini meeting, a short meeting.
How long was it?
Maybe a few minutes, because it was the greeting, and then my colleague, Advocate Chauge, explaining his embedded concern about me being present when the entire nitty-gritty bolts and nuts of the case are discussed, because of him having to gravitate even to make arrest in my office, and then my colleague saying, opinion, you sign this. So I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
What then, the meeting ended, you went back, you eventually returned to Pietermaritzburg, and then I want to take you to a series of emails which is attached to your affidavit, and I'm going to hand up one. The emails, because of the way it was printed, are not always in sequence, and I'm going to let Advocate Molochwa take us through it in the sequence, and there's one which appears not to have been provided in the sequence which we ascertained this morning, which I'm going to hand up. I think Advocate Molochwa has it, the one at 6:38 p.m. on the 12th of June to do that. But if I look at it with some sort of chronology, you say in your affidavit that on 12th June, Advocate Chauke's personal assistant, Ms. Soeping, emailed you the indictment without the prosecutor's memo and report. Do you have your emails there, Advocate Molochwa?
If you may bear with me, I'm also trying to orientate myself with the file. Yes, I have found the email, and I think I'll have to confirm with you if you're making reference to email appearing on page 408 of the bank.
Right, so the first email is the one sent at 12th June 2012 at 1:29, coming from the person whom we identified as the executive assistant to the DPP South Gauteng. Correct?
That is the position.
Right, and she emailed you the indictment without the prosecutor's memo or report.
That is the position.
Right. And pursuant to that, if we go to page 405 in the list.
Before we move on, as you can see on page 408, the lady is Mamiki Suping, sending that email at 1:29, June to Silas Mlochwa. It is endorsed indictment Katomena. Unfortunately, I couldn't print out the indictment that was attached to that email. However, if you look at another email, on the same day, if you may bear with me.
You will see that at 40,
Oh,
405 at the bottom.
4, 5 on the bottom. 4, 5 on the bottom. Oh, thank you so much, Chairperson. So, as soon as I received that indictment, you can see no explanation, nothing, just the indictment. No report, no memo, as per the last agreement at the meeting of the 29th of May 2012. Then I picked up the phone to call my colleague, Advocate Chauke. I greeted him, Chief, did you see your PA has sent me an indictment without the memo or the report as per our agreement at VGM? It's then that I started having problem over the phone, him interrogating, probing me now. What report are you talking about? What memo are you talking about? I don't understand you. Then I dropped the phone. I was calling from the landline. After dropping the phone, as I say, I'm a man of record, I decided to commit him in writing. I transmitted that email dated 12 June 2012, appearing on 405. You can see I received his at 1:29 p.m.
It's the one at the bottom, Advocate.
And then on 405, I transmitted an email to him at 3:21 same day. In that email, I'm consistent. I say to him, Dear Advocate Chauke, our telephonic conversation today refers, kindly furnish me with the prosecutor's memo or report so that I can have a wraparound view of the matter. The report must also have the police stations and the case numbers so that we can open up the DPP's file. Then I thanked him in advance. So that is the difficulty I found myself languishing in the sense that I was still at sea in terms of having the information about the case. No case number, no police station, even, yeah. So that is what I transmitted to him. Then you can see that the same indictment that did not have a report and the memo, on the evening of the same day, he transmitted it to my colleague, Advocate Jiba.
That is the one that I just handed up.
Sorry, before you go there, we're trying to sort out our own papers.
Yes.
Ms. Bauer, I have here page 407, which really is a repeat of what you've just given us. And then I have, at the bottom of 407 is the same letter that appears at 405.
So, for purposes of this, you are going to have some duplicates because it's emails that come from a different source.
But are they different?
No, there may be, there are duplicates in this because it's you know what happens, it's a continuum and then it's there and we didn't want to disturb it. So what I'm trying to do in leading Advocate Mlochwa is taking you through a time chronology of a day. So be directed to the emails he's taking you to and accept that there are duplicates in the chain.
It's a trail of emails.
It's a trail of
So
emails.
we must be careful and not, it's because I just happened to be at 407.
No.
I should have gone to 405.
So listen to where we're trying to direct you. Accept there are duplicates because every time an email of a particular day got printed, the previous ones came with it, and so I'm trying to
Understood.
see if I
Thank you.
can
Yeah,
keep some
thank you.
order in it without actually trying to distract it and scratch through things. So if you go back to 405, the page that I handed up, which I think maybe for record purposes, let's mark it 405A. Right? You will see that your evidence was that at 6:38 p.m. on the 12th, Advocate Chowki transfers the indictment to both you and Advocate Jiba.
That is the position. And then you will notice that as that email was sent to me and my colleague Jiba after 6 p.m., on the same day at 5:14 in the afternoon, that will be the email appearing on 405, an email that was sent to me, copied in the email is my colleague Advocate Sistogo Machogweni. Then the lady there, Palisa N.P. Matsi, was the PA to my colleague Advocate Jiba, and then copied in as well Advocate Selo Mayema. I assume he is in the Northwest Division, as well as Advocate Raymond Matenjwa.
When you get this email, do you know why Advocates Mahema and Mathenjwa is included in the email trail?
No explanation in the email itself as to why there was necessity to copy them in as well. So you can see that the introductory remark of the email is the same question I'm saying I was asked over the phone, the question that galvanized me to terminate the call and resort to writing. My colleague, Advocate Chawoge, is asking me, who is the prosecutor that you are referring to? I have forwarded to you the indictment, which has all the detailed summary by which you ought to be in a position to open your office file. There you can see we are consensus ad idem with him in terms of the non-existence of the file relating to this matter. I also forwarded to you details of the inquest with police, case numbers, etc., to which you referred to Advocate Togo Machogweni for reasons that I do not know and understand. If I pause there, as you procedurally, if I may take you 2 or 3 steps back, a docket will be forwarded to the Office of the DPP for decision, murder, robbery, rape, whatsoever. In an instance where it involves a murder and then a decision declining to prosecute, procedurally, invariably, the Office of the DPP will have to send the affidavit statements and documents relating to matter to the magistrate office with the instruction to the prosecutor to send the same to hold inquest. So if I'm receiving this email from my colleague, Advocate Chauge, saying he wanted to reopen the inquest, at the time I quickly laid a finger on the Inquest Act. And as I browsed through the Inquest Act, I realized that, no man, it seems only the judge can reopen the inquest. So it was against that background that I decided to respond, copying in Advocate Togo Machogweni, because Advocate Togo Machogweni at that time was the acting National Prosecution Services head, because I also wanted to take her on board. So my colleague Chauge continues, the indictment with respect gives you the whole view of the matter, which I do not agree. You are kindly and fervently requested to please discuss any issues, if any, with me. If really, I really do not see any need for me to give you any report other than what I've forwarded to you already. Please, if I understand you, make me understand. I do not want to play you or undermine your jurisdictional authority in any way whatsoever. There are serious issues of security in this matter, which, if necessary, you will be you'll be briefed about which are not relevant to you. And I cannot expose such to you at this stage. There you can see the attempt to exclude me from the matter, same reason being given, security issues. I've also learned with utter dismay that you have now issued an instruction to the senior prosecutors that all dockets that are with us must be brought to you. What is not happening here, my brother? Please, if you have any issue again, talk to me or arrange that we see the acting NDPP urgently. That is my colleague, Advocate Chiba. Another issue of concern to me is the delay in you issuing the instruction of the reopening of the inquest in view of the fact that you have been requested to sign the indictment, which must be preceded by your decision to reopen the inquest.
What, in your view, did you require for purposes of reopening an inquest?
That is why I had to transmit an email to copy in Advocate Togo Machogweni, because as far as I saw at that time, that did not fall within our province as a prosecutor. But you'll see the emails later on. If this makes you uncomfortable, indicate so that I may urgently take the matter up with the acting NDPP as well as the minister.
Which minister did you think he was referring to at the time?
At the time, I never had any idea which minister a reference was being made to. To date, I don't know whether it was the Minister of Justice or whoever. I do not want to step onto your toes. I was informed that you agreed and arranged with the acting NDPP for somebody from outside to do the prosecution of this matter. If you have now a change of heart, please indicate so that we may resolve it as soon as possible. You can see now that the atmosphere is thickening between the NPA officials. Then I respond on page the following day. I didn't receive that email on this. I didn't read it on the same day. I came back in the office the following day, and then the following day, after reading his email, I thought that it was appropriate for me to respond.
And that response is at page 406. It is the email sent on the 13th of June 2012 at 9:12, and you send it to Advocate Chauki, Jiba, and Machogweni, correct?
That is the position. So as I was responding here, I thought there was quite a number of principles that I had to enunciate with colleagues. So I indicated to him, dear Advocate Chauke, I operate from the premise that the mission of the NPA enjoins us to be guided by the Constitution. The last time I cast a glance at the Constitution, I gleaned that its preamble encapsulates that all the rights enshrined in the Constitution have to be respected, protected, and promoted. This includes the right to human dignity, which is affirmed by Section 10 of the same Constitution. Paragraph 2, I think it is significant that I alert you, or I bring it to your consciousness that as a South African citizen, that this Constitution also renders me a cast iron guarantee to this right. I'm acutely aware that as we live in a fast-paced, overstimulated, and I want it quick society, there is always a temptation to arrive at a decision that is based on preconceived ideas. Argumentum ad hominem principle is a well-established principle in our law.
Can I stop you there and ask Ms. Bauer to direct you to parts of the response that she wants you to talk about? Because we already have it, you don't need to
Thank you
read
so
it.
much. Thank you so much.
I want you to elaborate on why you felt it was necessary, especially in paragraphs 1 and 2. And you come to the next part, you have leveled serious allegations against me, and take us through as to what you meant by those allegations.
So that was the allegation that advocates in my office were going to be charged. I viewed that very seriously. if one does not have evidence, and I doubt if anybody has ever been charged. And I think again he had indicated that he got a sense that there was bias in terms of protecting the accused in the matter. I think those are the allegations he made, even though I did not put them down here.
You then give him some words of wisdom in paragraph 3, and we'll skip those, and you then deal with the practice in the NDPP's office for the signing of a Section 2 certificate. What did you mean by that in paragraph 4, which is the next page of your letter? And I think for record purposes, we should probably mark that page 406A. It had been, or should have been, inserted into your bundle.
So in paragraph 4, that was an eloquent and conscious effort I was trying to make to get a report from him, because I was finding myself in a difficult situation to sign the indictment with no report that was explaining what was happening in the matter. But if I may hasten to add that the quality of the indictment that was given to me, linguistic skill utilized in the indictment to articulate the charges, it left much to be desired, which gave me a very deep sense, a very deep sinking feeling to just sign, having not seen the report, at least that motivates for the charging of the accused.
You in paragraph 4 point out that in order to enroll the matter in the High Court, we need two things: a DPP's file and a judge's file. And in order to open up the DP's file, we need the name of the police station, the CAS names, and the numbers of the accused. Only the signed original indictment is required for the office of the registrar to open up the judge file. And so the implication being is you were not provided with those details: the name of the police station, the CAS number.
That exhibits that I was still in the dark in terms of, they say devil is in the detail. I didn't have all those details so as to be able to open up the file.
So you then regarded this as, you called it forensic ambush, and then you go on in your paragraph 5, and you deal with the instruction that you issued to senior prosecutors in that regard, right?
Yes.
And you suggest that it was his suggestion that the inquest must be reopened, correct?
If you look at his initial email, yeah, that is the position.
So it was pursuant to that you pointed out to him that the inquest records in the DPP office was not, that the inquest records were not kept at the DPP office, but at the criminal courts, and hence you were calling for them. Is that correct?
I was trying
That's
to
what you
explain.
sought
Yes,
to
yes,
convey.
Yes.
Right. You then referred to an embarrassment which you had at the soccer in Daba the previous week. Can you elaborate on that? You attended a soccer in Daba. Where did it take place? Tell us, what is a soccer in Daba?
SOCA was one of the acronyms that were utilized in the NPA. I think it was a sexual offenses and child abuse unit, previously headed by Advocate Togoma Jogweni. Later on, at the time of my departure, if my memory serves me well, headed by Advocate Pierre Smith. So there had been a workshop at OR Tambo, I think at Southern Sun Hotel, if my memory serves me well, to discuss the issue of sexual offenses. I think it was going to be a 2-day or 3-day workshop. And I think the second day of the workshop, I stumbled upon another colleague, Advocate Dawood. When I stumbled upon him, he said—
When you say, sorry, Advocate Dawood, are you referring to Advocate Dawood Adam?
That is the position. So when I stumbled upon him, he said, I take it, Simpiwe, you are joining us in a meeting that is intended to discuss this security issue regarding the matter in your division. Then I asked him, which matter? He said, the Kato Mena matter. Then I just laughed it off, and then I left him. As I came out of the bathroom, I stumbled upon another colleague from Security and Risk. I understand he's no longer in the NPA now, Mr. Kenny. I couldn't recall his surname at the time of writing the email. He was from PE, if I'm not mistaken. When I stumbled upon him, he asked me the similar question. No, he didn't ask a question. Instead, he remarked, Simpiwe, please wait for me because we are all going to the same meeting. Then I asked him, which meeting are you talking about? He made reference to the same meeting that Dawood had made reference to. So I took that as an embarrassment that all these discussions were taking place involving the division that I was heading at the time, but I was being excluded. So that's what I mean if I say to him, I felt so embarrassed.
And you had on the previous day met with Advocate Chowki.
We were all attending the same workshop at OR Tambo, the soccer workshop.
Was Advocate Jiba in attendance as well?
No, I don't remember seeing her at that meeting. I don't remember.
You then make
I think she was not present at that meeting.
you then make reference to a meeting that was supposed to have happened with the AGP yesterday. And remember, this email is now being sent on the 13th of June. What were you referring to?
What had happened is, when I told him that after signing the indictment, after the opening of the file, I told him that it will be more apposite if I take him to the acting judge president, who is now the judge president, that is Judge Japi, to introduce to him in the light of the fact that he was coming from another division. And then to which suggestion he agreed. And then I contacted the judge's registrar to pencil an appointment for us. And then my colleague never rocked up. He never gave me any excuse why that did not happen. I was also again expressing to him that, hey, brother, I felt also so embarrassed about the incident.
Right. And then the response that you got to this email is on page 406.
But one thing you need to note, in that last sentence of paragraph 6, that I indicated to him that I saw the AGP alone, even though I know that you will cast aspersions upon it. I also put that to him.
And why would you do that?
Seeing these exclusions from the discussion of the matter that is in my division, I felt that maybe I was also the prime suspect. So that is why I had to explain to him the reason why I went alone without him present, because the registrar had already confirmed with me that the acting judge president was waiting to see us. So I had to explain it to him that I went alone on that basis, that the appointment had already been made.
But you didn't seriously think that, because they'd hardly be asking the prime suspect to sign the indictments.
Come again?
They were asking you to sign an indictment. If
That
you
is
were
the
the
position.
prime suspect, they would not seriously be asking you to sign an indictment.
I agree with you. In hindsight, we all become wiser.
If we go to page 406, you get Advocate Chowki's response, which he sends to you at 10:32, and he includes Advocate Jiba and Majukweni in this email chain.
Page
406.
Oh, yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And there's very little detail in that email other than that he notes your concern, tenders an apology, and doesn't offer you any dockets, case numbers, accused, etc. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. The following email which you then get is on page 410. Is that correct? At 11:20.
That is correct.
Right. That is just less than an hour later.
Yes, that is the position on the 13th.
And in that email we have Advocate Jiba, Majukweni, Mathenjwa, Mahema, Fuchana, and other people included in that email. Correct?
That is correct.
Right. And he then makes reference to a memo dated 18th May 2012 refers. Do you know to what he's referring?
I think that will be the email that I was unable to retrieve. The email wherein he was telling me to reopen the Yo, I need to be brutally honest with you. I don't recall this memo. At the time when I received the email, I did not pay much attention. The moment I realized that he was apologizing, I was quick to accept his apology so that we could move on and work as colleagues and brothers.
But look at the next paragraph. Kindly take note that I hereby withdraw the request for you to consider reopening the inquiries which have been listed on the memo.
Yes,
So on the basis of that, it related to the list of files that he had asked you to reopen the inquest on.
yes, I agree.
And he then says to you there will be no necessity for them to be reopened at this stage. I would however request copies thereof to be, I think the word is there, and the current investigation team will approach your office or the offices of the magistrate for such assistance, and I will let you know if we're unable to get any assistance.
Yes,
And that was the end of it.
that was the end of it. I think there's also another email where I was giving him an assurance that whenever I need help, I'll always be there.
And at that juncture, when you received that email, were you apprised of the fact that certain advocates had been appointed to prosecute the Cato Manor prosecution in your division? Advocate Mahema and Mathenjwa in particular. I'm now talking about June 2012.
The problem is I couldn't retrieve the provisional delegation that I had signed, but I remember that I had already signed the provisional delegation for them. But I can't remember the date.
And for the record, we haven't been able to find that provisional delegation in any
I was a bit-
documentation that has been provided to
I was
us.
a bit hesitant
by
to
the
contact
NPA.
my colleagues to give me those provisional delegations that I signed.
What do you next hear about the Cato Manor prosecutions? This is the 12th of June 2012. You leave office on the 9th of July. Between the 12th of June and the 9th of July, are you approached about the Cato Manor prosecutions at all?
Yes. As you can see, these emails were exchanged sometime mid-June, and then I stepped down on the 9th of July 2012. And then after stepping down, I was just following the case in the newspapers, as well as because I had already developed keen interest. I also looked at the judgment that was delivered by the judge in the division in the review matter Poison versus the acting national director of public prosecutions. I think it's Judge Govan who handed down the judgment. Then that was it.
You alluded earlier on to your span of control and the inference that sought to be drawn that there were advocates in your office that were implicated as a consequence of which others had to be brought in.
Yes.
What is your comment on that?
If one were to make that suggestion, I wouldn't agree with it on the basis of the fact that it will be exhibiting lack of understanding on how NPA office is structured in KZN. Shortly, the DPP has got two offices, one in Pietermaritzburg, one in Durban, the main being in Pietermaritzburg. Traditionally, in the olden days, there used to be the most senior deputy heading the DPP office in Durban. Currently, I understand it's Advocate Sheriza Ramothar. In the office of the DPP Pietermaritzburg, I think there's plus or minus 30 to 50 deputies, including deputies, senior advocates, and officials. The same with the office in Durban. Further than that, you will have organized crime headed by a senior deputy Advocate Vani Govender at the moment, and then you will have a specialized commercial crime component. During my time, I think it was headed by the gentleman who took an early retirement, Advocate Willie Miller. So if one were to say there are advocates implicated, I wouldn't accept it if it is presented as a generic sweeping statement. One will have to be specific in terms of these components that I'm presenting here, which one will be in close proximity with the accused to give a better understanding, for one to have a better understanding.
I want to read a statement to you, and then I want your comment on it. The public outcry called for the reaction of the then Police Minister, Honorable Nathi Mthethwa, Acting Lieutenant General Mkhonwazi, to establish an investigation task team to investigate the public outcry, which was as a result of the killings which were caused by the members of the Cato Manor Police Station. So gruesome were the acts of the members of this unit, resulted in the police unit being called the death squad or a hit squad. Pursuant to a meeting with the members of police who were appointed to investigate these crimes, as an acting national director of public prosecutions at the time, I set up a national prosecuting team to work with the police. The reason why a national prosecuting team was established is because the then KZN acting DPP pleaded that the suspects were known and have worked closely with members of the subunit, and some of the cases have fallen through the cracks of the provincial prosecutors. Can I have your comment on that?
It's just that I'm trying to understand whether I should give a short answer or a long answer. I don't agree with that statement.
I think you must give a bit of a longer answer, Advocate. At my own peril, I'm suggesting that.
If,
I think we would also appreciate that.
okay, first and foremost, whatever case that I would have dealt with in the province KZN will feature in one of these black books. I never had any information about the case. And then two, if a prosecutor from another division is sent to another division, the division to which that prosecutor is sent is responsible for, they use the acronym SNT, subsistence and traveling accommodation and so on and so forth. At no point did I ever sign those documents. And then three, in KwaZulu-Natal, I handled very massive projects at the time. There had been instances where prosecutors were prosecuted by colleagues in my province. There were instances where my colleagues were prosecuting a regional magistrate in the province. There were instances where politicians were prosecuted by advocates in my office. So I really don't understand. So to cut the long story short, and what renders that suggestion anemic is the fact that there is no date on which I made that plea. There is no place that is given at which I would have made that plea. It's just a generic plea that is purported to have been made by me. It would have assisted me if there is also some indication, as they say, devil is in the detail. In what form was that plea received? I never made any plea. As you can see, these emails, at all material relevant times, I was at a loss in terms of the bolts and nuts, the mechanics of the case that was at hand, until I stepped down as the DPP acting.
So a short summing up of your evidence is, with reference to that statement, you never made such a plea to the Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions.
I never made a plea, and again we'll have to go to the email that Advocate Chauga sent to me. In that email, there is no suggestion of plea having been made by me to the acting and DPP. In that email, he states in uncertain terms that the information was given at the time was that I had agreed in the sending of the prosecutors from outside to the province KZN. In that email, the issue of a plea by Advocate Siyasim Mloshwa, the acting DPP, is never featuring. I'm hearing that for the first time. I must be honest with you that I made a plea.
I want to, you've been given with two affidavits, and I want to take you to each of those affidavits. The first affidavit, which we'll pull up onto the screen, is to be found in folder J, and it is number 88, which is the affidavit of Gladstone Salo Mahema, which we know is one of the which you would now know is one of the prosecutors, Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions from the Northwest Province that was deployed to deal with the Cato Manor prosecution in the KZN. In fact, he was the lead prosecutor, correct?
Correct. He's also my comrade in the sense that he's also a comrade runner.
Yes, we always deal with these things in running terms, don't we, Mr. Advocate Malachwa? I want to take you to paragraph 3 of that affidavit. And for the record, this affidavit was deposed to on the 16th of January 2015. And I obtained this from the docket which Advocate Ferreira had prepared in relation to the perjury charges which were then on the go. And the paragraph 3 reads, in March 2012, which is some 3 months before the exchange you have with Advocate Chowki, correct?
That is the position?
He says, I was informed by my DPP advocate Johan Smith, SC, about a request by the then acting NDPP advocate Jiba to form part of a team that would peruse a number of dockets which were originating from the KZN division, which later became known as the Cato Manor prosecution. The reason that was given at the time by the ANDPP was then that the acting director of public prosecutions KwaZulu-Natal, Advocate Simpimi Mulechwa, had approached her with a request to appoint prosecutors from other divisions to look into the matter, as prosecutors in his division had worked over a number of years closely with the members of the Cato Manor section of the Durban Organised Crime Unit. The request was that the team of prosecutors who were unknown to the suspects and who were unfamiliar with the facts of the matter be appointed to decide the dockets. I was asked to be the lead prosecutor, assisted by a DPP advocate, Raymond Matenjwa, and 4 others who I identified, who were all based at the DP Office South Gauteng Division under the leadership of Advocate Andrew Chowki. There was a meeting then held on the 9th of March with the team members, Advocate Chowki and Advocate Mosing, and a communique was then sent to Advocate Smith via one Jackie Lepinka, who I understand to be in the office of the acting NDPP. And I want you to comment on the allegation that is made in there that this was being done pursuant to a approach from you for a request.
Before I respond, it would appear that there is an attachment marked SM1 that I think it will be appropriate to also look at it.
I have it. Let me just think for a minute. Give me a second. Advocate Malochwa,
In the interest of time,
in the interest of time, let me say that that was a communication which was from Advocate, from Ms. Lepinka to the DPP of the Northwest, reflecting the need for Advocate Mayema to be deployed. It didn't include you in it, but for record purposes, I will find it. I just can't lay my hands on it right now.
thank you so much. My initial answer still,
We do have it. It's under what we call Mahema docs, which my junior will tell me it is at G, folder G. Oh, wait, it is J156. And they'll pull it on the screen, and it is a document to Advocate Smith from Ms. Jackie Lepinka, the Manager Executive Support to the NDPP, dated 19th March 2012. And I'm going to ask somebody to just bring you a computer closer so you could read it. Sanan, could you just, my junior on my left will take it. And it basically advised that the acting NDPP has noted the contents of a said communique. The said communique is a communication inquiring about Advocate Mahema's need to be part of this. Advocate Mahema's role will be determined by events as the matter progresses. Please note that the matter is a national project, and therefore cooperation from all relevant and identified officials is important, should not be hampered. Travel and accommodation will be borne by your office, and this clarifies your concern. What do you know about the national project?
I never knew it to be constituting a national project. However, that communication to Advocate Smith, Northwest DPP, from Jackie Lepinka, never makes reference to me.
No.
Having with cap in hand, the way I understand it now, pleaded to have the assistance. No mention of me in this communication.
No.
None.
No.
The same with the issue of budget.
Well,
I wasn't aware.
So if I sum up, you do not agree with what is contained in Advocate Mahema's affidavit,
I don't agree.
insofar as it relates to you.
That is the position.
Right. Now I want to take you to another affidavit that has been provided you. It is an affidavit deposed by Advocate Mossing. And that affidavit was deposed to by Advocate Mossing also in I think it's a little bit later, 5th of May 2015. Do you have it in front of you, Advocate Olochwa? I think it's just after that flag. I think there's a white flag and a red flag.
Yes.
It's folded J92 on
Yes.
the screen.
Yes. I found the document. We seem to be on the same page.
Right. And Advocate Mossing in this affidavit says he explains his involvement, how it came about, how he comes to make this affidavit, and then in paragraph 7 is where I want to take you to in this affidavit, in which he says, in the course of the execution of my duties, I attended a meeting on or about 8 March 2012 at our offices with 3 members of the IPID, who I gather from the NPA, concerning an investigation that they were conducting into the crimes alleged to be committed by the SABC members from Cato Manor. And he then annexes, and I'm going to take you to those handwritten notes in a moment, annexes handwritten notes of the meeting. And then he says the reference to a meeting with the Minister of Police and the Acting National Commissioner of Police, Vilakazi, is that I was informed by the said members that they, being IPID and the Hawks, had a joint meeting with the Minister a week ago, whereby the Minister expressed his dissatisfaction with the slow progress made by the two investigating units since it had been pending since December 2011. Were you invited to these meetings, Advocate?
No,
Were you aware that these meetings were happening?
no.
It was apparently decided during that meeting that the two units should conduct the matter jointly, and that had been working throughout the previous weekend. The reason they came to see the acting NDPP was that they needed to rope in prosecutors to handle the matter urgently, and that the prosecutors seemingly promised by the acting DPP of KZN, Advocate Malochwa, was not materializing. I want to stop there for a moment. Did you have any contact with IPID, anybody from the Hawks, at which you were asked to produce prosecutors prior to the 9th of March 2012?
Not at all. You can see my lower jaw is dropping. I'm surprised. Even the promise is giving the indictment I gave to the police and I never kept the promise. I never did that. And the mention of those police does not appear in this affidavit. As to who are those police or police officials who say I made a promise to them and I was not keeping my word.
So you don't know where that information comes from?
I don't know where the information came from. I never attended the meeting. I wasn't aware of any meeting having taken place about the matter.
They then mention that seized with 51 cases, and then they go on and they deal with that. And I just want to take you down to the handwritten notes to which he refers to in this meeting, which you will see is Annexure B to the affidavit. And for clarity's sake, I'm going to hand out, so that we don't waste time, a typed version of these handwritten notes, which you see as Annexure B to this affidavit. Right? And it is a shorthand note which he says he kept, and he sought to describe it in his affidavit. But I want to take you to one aspect of this. In the first line, he talks about a meeting with the Minister of Police, SAPS, and the Acting National Commissioner, Vilakazi, correct?
I see that in his affidavit.
And I want to confirm that you had no knowledge of this.
No,
Were you party to any such meeting?
no.
You will recall that in the email that you received from Advocate Chowki, he also made mention of reporting to a minister, and you in fact indicated to us you didn't know who he was talking about.
That is my evidence.
There is a line that's underlined which says, challenge to rope in NPA pros, not submit to KZN TPP, but to NDPP. Do you see that? That is the bold and underlined.
What page is it?
No, I'm talking about the type minute. Has it been, you've been given a copy of the type minute? Sorry, Are you at any point during this process prior to your, sorry, I was taking you to the first line in the email after the names and
Yes.
the fourth line.
Yes, I see match 2 teams mandate. Matter pending since December 2011. My apologies.
Once a rest by this week, worked throughout weekend. Do you see that?
I see that.
What do you conclude by this, Advocate Malochwa?
It gives an impression of a pressure of some sort on the prosecution to execute the arrest.
Advocate Malochwa, I want to take you off this issue onto something else. You indicated to us early on in your evidence.
Before we go there, can I just understand a few things? Matter pending since December 2011, do you know which matter references we made to?
I'm in the dark, I don't know.
Do you know anything about warrants of arrest? Who would sign the warrants? Who would initiate them?
No idea.
No, who would? Do you know, in any given situation, would it depend on whether it's in the magistrate's court or in the high court?
Under normal circumstances, there will be an affidavit by the investigating officer and the prosecutor take that to the magistrate for him to authorize the warrant of arrest. But in this scenario, I wasn't
You know
aware of
nothing
the
about it.
warrants of arrest, yes.
Thank you.
Who are the people whose names are mentioned at the top right and left-hand corner? Were those cell phone numbers?
They are all strangers to me. I'm seeing them for the first time. I've never met them. I do not know them.
Thank you.
But I don't know. General Mabula met with Mhlochwa, promised that two advocates join only next week, 51 cases. It seems in this matter we've got a duplication of Mhlochwa's. One of the member of the prosecuting team is Jan Mhlochwa, whereas myself as the acting DPP then, Cyril Simpiwe Mhlochwa. So possibly reference was being made to the other Jan or myself, I don't know, but there's Mhlochwa who features in these minutes.
Well, that then, sorry, I should have phrased that. Did you have a meeting with General Mabula?
With General Mabula on that one, I wouldn't know. I'm a part-time law tutor at UNISA, but here in my black book, I recorded that on a Saturday when attending a tutor's workshop at UNISA, he called me. Unfortunately, it seems I was at a meeting. I just recorded his cell phone number with an undertaking to make a call after the tutor's workshop. After that, there is no recording of what transpired. So I assume that maybe I forgot to call the gentleman.
You had earlier testified to us when you had been to the VGM building, and one of the dates you had provided was the 24th, 25th of January.
That is the position.
Can you recall, maybe with reference to your black book, what were you doing there on the 24th, 25th of January?
24th.
2012.
Oh, my apologies. Before I give you an answer to that, it was on a Saturday, the 21st of January 2012, when attending a workshop at Peter Marisbeck UNISA, when General Mabula called me on the number 0828561403. So that is what I was trying to explain, that I never reverted back to him. But back to the question that you posed in relation to the 24th of January 2012, it was an ESCOM meeting.
No, it's the 24th and 25th of January 2012.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sorry, EXCO meeting, I misunderstood you. Yes.
Yes, it was an ESCO meeting chaired by my colleague.
Did,
Mrs. Nomgcobo.
right now, looking at your black book to refresh your memory, did you have cause to raise any issue with anybody prior or at that meeting?
What had happened is, during the month of January, the gentleman by the name of Pandey had made representations directly to the office of my other colleague, But Lawrence Mkhwebi. After those representations were lodged with his office, he sent an email to Vili Miller, who was the special commercial crime unit head in KZN. I'm not sure if we all have a copy of that. It is titled Internal Memorandum to Advocate Miller.
I'm told, Madam Chair, that it's at the back of your files and copies had been given to the other parties. It was provided to us this morning by Advocate Malochwa.
So you can see that email to Advocate Miller. My apologies, Miller was the acting regional head, not the permanent regional head.
Advocate Malochwa, can I take you a step back? There is one document which is headed Ravinda Makinkal and Company.
I see the document.
It is dated the 29th of December 2011.
Yes.
It is directed to the National Head Special Director of Public Prosecutions, Specialized Commercial Crime Unit, Advocate Mkhwebi.
That is the position.
Right. And it relates to representations for Colonel Madhu.
That is the position.
Right. Can you just, before we go on to the response, can you just briefly tell us what it was about, the Madhu matter? You were at that stage still the acting DPP, correct?
Yes, that is the position. If my memory serves me well, this is the matter wherein there was an allegation of 1.3 million, 1.5 million rand bribe having been paid to General Poison at the time, as a consequence of which an arrest was executed upon this gentleman, Colonel Navin Madhu, who was the supply chain manager at the time, as well as Mr. Pandey.
Right, and that followed on Section General Boyson having obtained a Section 252A authorization after he had been approached to take a bribe. And Advocate General Boyson is coming to testify on Monday, so I don't need you to go into the specifics, but I just want to put it into context for the presiding officers.
If my memory disappoints me, you'll forgive me. As far as I remember, though faintly, there had been an authorization in terms of Section 252A given to General Poison in this matter.
Now, these representations are made to the head of the Specialized Crime Unit, and he then does an internal memorandum, which is the next document, which is sent to the acting regional head SCCU, and you CC'd in as the acting director of public prosecutions, and it's dated the 9th of January 2012.
That is the position.
All right. And tell us then what ensues after that.
As soon as I received this internal memo to which these representations were attached, I got a very deep sinking feeling that something was not okay here, constitutionally and legally. I sent an email to my colleague, that is Advocate Mkhwebi, saying, it seems here there is a problem in the sense that in terms of the Constitution 179 and 22 of the NPA Act, representations, I'm the one who appointed a prosecutor, I think it was Advocate Manyati in the matter. I do not know anything what is happening. All of a sudden, representations are being helicoptered into your office at headquarters. There was no response to that email, but after that advocate was handling the matter, if my memory serves me well, Advocate Manyati had sent his answers to those representations. Advocate Lawrence Mkhwebi emailed me again saying he holds the view that the matter must proceed. But after that, I thought that maybe I attended a meeting on the 24th of January 2012. Before the meeting, I think there was tea, there were some fruits there to replenish before the commencement of the meeting. Then I bounced into Willie Hofemeyer. Then I called him aside. I said, hey, look, I'm a bit ambivalent here. In the event I'm wrong, I need to go to Lawrence and apologize to him. Constitutionally and legally, can it happen that the representations can get helicoptered, boom, over the head of the DPP of the division, right into the office of the Special Director, Commercial Crime? He said, you are right. Constitutionally, you are the DPP. As a result of that, he said, look, probably this issue will affect other DPPs. I will put it on the agenda for the meeting. That is the meeting of the 24th of January. On the 24th of January, a number of things were discussed because that meeting was chaired by my colleague, Sister Mokgoro. The issue of performance, that was on a decline. The issue of CC, concerns on performance, and then the observation by Karen van Rensburg, people or NPA employees paid 60% less. But most importantly, to cut the long story short, in this regard, Willie Hofemeyer stated that constitutionally and legally, in terms of NPA Act, the power to prosecute rests with the DPP in the division. He proceeded, the Act says that the veto powers are with the DPPs. I quoted him ipsissima verba during that time. Therefore, he continued, Advocate Mkhwebi's interpretation of the Act, both the Constitution and the Act, is wrong. In other words, a case cannot be withdrawn if the DPP has not agreed. The Constitution and the NPA insist that the decision taken must be taken in consultation with the DPPs. And then other issues were discussed, the issue relating to the reporting lines, SCCU, and then the regional heads in the province were going to sign performance contracts with Advocate the same put Lawrence as from the 1st of April 2012. So that would have wrapped up the meeting of the 24th, because on the 25th, other issues were discussed, including, among others, labor experts having been consulted, an indication that there was nothing wrong if the organization is restructuring. The debate whether NPA can be an independent entity constitutionally and legally, if that was possible. So I think that was the debate on the 25th.
Now, whilst you were acting DPP, there is a case commonly referred to as the Amigos case. The first accused is somebody called Gavin Savoy, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you took a decision to prefer charges in that matter.
That is correct.
I'm not sure if you have it in front of you. A memorandum, and it's a memorandum dated 14 July 2014. Did we give you a copy?
If I may.
Yeah. We will find that at it's item number 2.211. Let me just get the bundle for you quickly. It is a report prepared by your successor advocate Noka to Mr. Naksana. Do you see that?
Yes, I see a 3-page memorandum.
Yes, it's a 3-page memorandum. There is an affidavit attached which I'm not giving you. Let me just find this on the Dropbox for everybody else in a second. It's 2.211, and it is to be found in folder F, subfolder 2.2 and at 2.211. Right. You will see from the contents of this memorandum that Advocate Ngoko had taken a decision to withdraw those charges.
Yes, I see in the memorandum.
What was your view at the time when you, let me rephrase that. Was your opinion ever sought by Advocate Ngoko in respect of the charges brought in the Amigos matter?
There was no opinion sought, except that there was an email she dropped me saying she had received representations, what was my take at the time. I think I responded in 2 or 3 lines, it's just that I did not bring the email here with me, indicating to her that, hey, look, at the time when I stepped down, I was of the opinion that there was evidence. However, I do not know what would have happened after my stepping down, because things happen, witnesses die, documents get lost, so I don't know what would have happened. So thereafter, I did not have anything to do with the matter.
And was any...
Wrap up on that question, because the recorders need a 10-minute break. Yeah.
Other than that exchange by email, has your opinion ever been sought in respect of the Amigos matter?
In respect of the Amigos case, the last time I attended the meeting about it, I think it was on the 23rd of May 2012.
What does your black book say about that on the 23rd of May 2012?
On the 23rd, I think that is the meeting that would have been chaired also by my colleague, Advocate Chiba. If you can bear with me. So the meeting was in the NPS boardroom on 23 May 2012, acting NDPP chairing the meeting, President Vili, Dr. Amaide, the Northern Cape DPP, that will be Sis Ivy, Advocate Ivy Tsenga, the KZN team, prosecution team, that will be Advocate Dunywa, I think Advocate Vimbani, and then the third one is now a member of the judiciary in KZN. That will be Mr. Mkanyana. I recorded here Northern Cape team, but I didn't record the.
But maybe just get to the gist of it before we run out of it.
To cut the long story short, we agreed that the matter will proceed.
Okay. It's going to take a short adjournment to
Thank you, sir.
We will adjourn for 10 minutes.